Hi boys and girls, this is Engage New York 6th grade lesson 11 from module 2. You do need the classwork to go along with this video. Today in the lesson we're multiplying multi-digit decimal numbers. So on the opening exercise, the first thing that you're going to do is take 34 and 62/100 times 12 and 8/10. Now we talked yesterday about the decimal point having one job, and it's to separate whole numbers from parts of a number. So when we look at these two numbers that have decimal points in them, we can see that here the decimal point is separating 34 wholes from 62/100, which means that we have whole numbers and then part of another number. So if I were going to look for 34 and 62/100 on a number line, I can find it between what two whole numbers? Think about that. Where would I find 34 and 62/100? Well, I have 34 wholes, so I know it's going to be more than 34, and I have some parts, but I don't have enough parts to make 35. So 34 and 62/100 is going to be somewhere between 34 and 35 on the number line. Now we can just do the same thing for 12 and 8/10. If I were going to look for that number on a number line, it would be between what two whole numbers? So I have 12 wholes, so I know it's going to be more than 12, but I don't have enough parts to make 13. So it will be between 12 and 13 on a number line. To 13. So now, before I multiply these together, let's go ahead and multiply 34 times 12. Do this with me on your paper. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. X's and O's. 1 times 4. 1 times 3. 8. 10, and 4. So when I multiplied 34 and 12, I got 408. So think about the problem that we have here of 34 and 62/100 times 12 and 8/10. Will the answer to this problem be more or less than 408? Hopefully you can see that the product of this problem will be more than 408 because we rounded down on both numbers. Now we can go ahead and multiply 35 times 13. So the two other numbers that we can find. Do this on your paper. X's, O's, 5. Now when we multiplied the two bigger numbers together, we got 455. But because both of these numbers are less than these numbers, our product here should be less than 455. So if our product is going to be more than 408, less than 455, it will be between those two numbers. Let's go ahead and multiply to find the product. 8 times 2 is 16. 48 plus 1 is 49. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 4 is 36. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 is 27. X's and O's. 4, 12, 9, and 6. X's and 2 O's this time. 2, 6, 4. Now we can add up these rows. 6, 13, 11, 10, 23, 14. So I got 4, 4, 3, 1, 3, 6. Now I need to put a decimal point somewhere in my answer that would make this number greater than 408, but less than 455. Go ahead and do that now. Determine where I should put my decimal point so that it's greater than 408, but less than 455. Okay? Thinking about the places where it should go, I know it's going to have to be 400, so this needs to be in the hundreds place. So I can put the decimal point right here. 443 and 136 thousandths is more than 408, but 443 is less than 455. So now I know that my decimal point is in the right place. And this is a new strategy for you. You can round down and then round up and know that your product will be between those two numbers. But I like to do easier work and less problems, so a strategy that works for me is go back to the problem and count the digits that are after the decimal point in the problem. 1, 2, 3. And then I come down to the product very last and I put 3 digits after the decimal point. And as you can see in this problem, that strategy works. So here's 2 ways that you can figure out where to put the decimal point to make sure that your answer is reasonable. Moving on to B. Xavier earns $11.50 per hour working at a nearby grocery store. Last week, Xavier worked for 13 5/10 hours. How much money did Xavier earn last week? Remember to round to the nearest penny. Now, when we talk about rounding to the nearest penny, it's very stressful for some students and we start to freak out about it. So before that happens, let's think about what that means. How many pennies does it take to make $1? You should know that it takes 100 pennies to make $1. And if I have 1 penny, then I have 1/100th of a dollar. So if this were my decimal point, this would be the tenths place, and this would be the hundredths place. And a penny is 1/100th, so pennies are represented in the hundredths place. In order for me to round to the nearest penny, to round to the hundredths place, I have to have a digit in the thousandths place. So it says round to the nearest penny. So if Xavier makes $11.50 in 1 hour, do I need to round that to the nearest penny? No, I only have hundredths place. That is the nearest penny, 50 pennies. There is no digit in the thousandths place, so I cannot round this. And then the next number they've given us is 13 5/10 hours. Well, that's representing hours. It's not talking about money at all. So I don't need to round that number either. I can just multiply to find out how much Xavier makes. I know that multiplying will find my answer because if he makes $11.50 per hour, I could do $11.50 plus $11.50 plus $11.50 for 13 hours, or instead of doing repeated addition, I can multiply. Do this now on your paper. Okay, once you have completed those calculations, your product should be 155250. Now I can round down and round up to find where to put my decimal point, or go back to the problem and count the digits after the decimal point. There are 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point in the problem, so I'll put 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point in the answer. The question is asking, how much money did Xavier earn last week? So now that we're talking about money, the smallest amount of money I can go is 1 penny, which is 1/100th. This is the hundredths place. So I need to round to the nearest penny. Looking at the digit in the thousandths place, The 0 means stay the same or round up. Hopefully you know that 0 means to stay the same. So I can write all of the other digits the same and stop at the hundredths place. Xavier earned $155.25 last week. Turning to the next page, it says to calculate the product. Now, these numbers are very large, and it's going to require a lot of multiplying and adding. That is a 6th grade skill. It's a 6th grade standard to be able to multiply multi-digit decimal numbers. Push pause until you have that finished. Okay, you should have completed those calculations if you're pushing unpause. And if so, go ahead and check your work starting with your partial products. Now, if you switch these numbers and you had 54 and 82 hundredths on tops, you should still get the same answer. However, I like to put the number with the least amount of digits on bottom because that's how many rows you'll have. So here I have 4 rows because of the 4 digits in the second number. And so that's what it is. So check and make sure that each row is right. If you're missing a number, double check why. Maybe you got 8 times 4 wrong. Well, you don't want to keep making that same mistake twice. So if you didn't get a 4 or a 6 there, figure out what calculation error you made so that you don't make that mistake again. But once you've checked and you have each row correct, your total product should be this number. And now I can go back to count the digits after the decimal place in the problem. There are 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is 17,792 and 3,792 10,000ths. Again, I know that's very big. That's a lot of addition and multiplication. It is a 6th grade skill. Go ahead and read number 2. Calculate the answer. Write a sentence that answers the question. And push pause until you have that finished. Okay, if you push pause, you should have this multiplication problem complete. There, check row by row to make sure that you are multiplying correctly. And if you got these 3 rows correct and you added correctly, this should be your product. There's 1, 2, 3 problem numbers behind the decimal point in the problem. So 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point and the answer. Now, this is asking how much money he spends during the school year. So when we're talking about money, we cannot have 3 decimal places. The smallest amount of money is a penny, which is 1/100th. So looking at the 5, does 5 mean stay the same or round up? 5 means to round up. So my 7 goes up to an 8. And our answer is $399.38. Go ahead and complete 3 and 4 with your table groups. Make sure that you write a sentence that answers the question. For the problem set, there are only 4 problems. You need to write a sentence that answers 2, 3, and 4. Number 3 is a very tricky question. It has multiple